Hey y'all, thank y'all for joining the show tonight. Tonight I have an outstanding guest with me tonight. I have Christopher Garetano, my guest tonight on the show. Chris, thank you for joining me tonight on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I truly appreciate
Can
it.
you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay.
Absolutely. Guys, I just we have an outstanding guest tonight. I'm excited, Christopher Garetano. Chris, can you tell him just basically do a brief bio on yourself and just give him your accolades and tell them like about your show and all that kind of stuff, the documenting
Sure.
the series that you were on, your
Yeah.
television show, all that good stuff.
So my name is Christopher Garetano, and I am a movie maker. After I graduated film school, I got right into trying to make something, and I made my first documentary, which got a little attention. And then I wanted to, because it was always an interest of mine, tackle something in the world of mysteries or the paranormal. And my first interest was, and I still am going to do this, was to really do something unique on the concept of Bigfoot, and by the time I started, there was already some interesting things, but the thing I'm going to do, I've never heard anybody even say they were going to do anything remotely close, and I'm still going to do it. I'm still planning it. And but instead, because at the time I really didn't have a lot of money to put into something, I made a documentary called Montauk Chronicles, and it was about a conspiracy that surrounded an Air Force station in Montauk, New York. And I worked on that for a very long time. I made two versions of it, and the ultimate version came out in 2015. And it's really essentially followed four gentlemen who claim they were part of a secret underground government experiment that occurred roughly between like 1971 and 1983. And their claims are not only a mind control experiment, but they said that there are time travel experiments and people being tortured underneath the base and alien reverse engineering of alien technology, extraterrestrial technology. And so I really dove into that thing, spent a lot of time on it, and that caught the attention of some networks, and they wanted to do something with me, TV networks. And I ended up hosting a sequel to Montauk Chronicles for History Channel called The Dark Files in 2017. And then I did an episode of Ancient Aliens, and that led to an 8-hour series
Oh
called
wow.
Strange World. Yeah, that I did for Travel and Discovery. And I've made a bunch of things. I have a podcast called Off to the Witch. It's a weekly podcast. And now my new series is coming out, but I decided to make a series of docu-specials, feature-length docu-specials that really carries on the tradition of my show Strange World. And it's called Off to the Witch Presents. And um, the first special is coming out within, I would say, the second quarter of next year, and it's pretty much finished. It's in the late post-production stages, and it's called A Haunting We Will Go. So that's what I do. I make movies and documentaries, and I'm writing a horror film right now, and I published a book recently about the true story, the making of the movie, the notorious horror film, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's such a fascinating story of what happened on that set in the summer of 1973. So I wrote a dramatization of it and just put that out, and that's being developed right now with a pretty big studio. And I never thought that, I mean, I've been with it for so long. I never thought that a studio of that size would work on it. I always thought I'd make this independently, but it looks like it's going to be a limited series for TV. So that's what I do. And, I research, I really go to places, I speak to people, and, you can see my series. If you look up Strange World and my last name on YouTube, you can watch all 8 episodes actually of that season. And, I covered everything from the legend of James Dean's cursed car, the one he died in, to
Mm-hmm.
technologies that are being engineered by the governments since the 1960s that a lot of people have only seen in fiction. And I think that's the thing I'm most fascinated by, is that fine line between fiction and reality, because we really do dance on that. And ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
that's what Rod Serling coined as the Twilight Zone. So I love
Absolutely.
fiction. I love science fiction because it represents a lot of the things that I think people are truly experiencing.
Well, I want to go into some things. So basically, y'all, like I decided, like at the last minute, because I really, y'all know I've been trying to fall back a little bit because I'm not really, just been going on lately, and I'm not even going to go into that right now. I'm just going to have a positive night, positive experience, and I'm just trying to continue to do content. And so basically, I wanted to be Halloween, and as a Christian, I don't really celebrate Halloween, but I decided, what better time to do a paranormal special and have somebody on the show that can come on and talk about the paranormal. Y'all know I usually just do cryptids and discuss that, and basically I leave it there for the most part. Not really, but I haven't had a lot of people to come on sharing paranormal experiences. And I really haven't reached out to too many guests. I could push it more if I really just put more effort into it, like the way I do with Dogman and cryptid stuff. But some things are, because I don't, I feel kind of insecure about doing certain shows, not so much because I don't feel like I know what I'm talking about when it comes to them, because I've dealt with having a lot of paranormal
I
and
mean, do any of us
supernatural
really know what
experiences.
we're talking about? You know, do any of us honestly? I mean, such a
Right?
all of this stuff remains a mystery. I mean, I've been out
Absolutely.
in the field
Well,
looking for a Bigfoot too. You know.
some of mine is fear too, though. Some of mine is fear too, because you got a lot of people now.
Right.
Blondes and Booze, thank y'all for showing up tonight. BMR, thank you for showing up. Marquetta, everybody else, thank y'all for showing up. Y'all check the chat and make sure everybody's like, doing good with the comments tonight. Nobody's coming in any disrespectful comments and
Does that
all that good
happen?
stuff, and we're good. Oh,
D-
absolutely. It happens all the
really?
time. Like, well, right now,
Wow.
especially because of the stuff that's been happening behind the scenes. So, yeah, we're getting a little bit more of
Wow.
that right now than any other time. But, you got people that
Oh
come in with
boy.
rudeness, either sometimes toward the guest or the host or just in your thought process. So, that is something that happens a lot too. But
That's
that's why I'm letting the
astonishing.
mods know, like, we've already got. Yeah, you get that a lot. People are thoughts and beliefs on
Wow.
stuff. But y'all, just real quick, I'm gonna get him to go right into it. We're gonna talk about some paranormal topics tonight, and y'all, I've got a whole list of things we're gonna discuss. And if y'all got questions, make sure you put your questions tonight in all caps. I've got Chris on tonight for about an hour and a half. But what I want to say real quick is that part of me not doing those shows as much because, a lot of times I've noticed that when I do talk about certain topics on the shows or whatever, it kind of ends up making things manifest or show up more so. So I don't like to give too much discussion on certain things because it draws stuff in. So that's why. But I'm gonna brave it for y'all tonight. We're gonna talk about some stuff. I'm gonna pray over it and not even worry about it. So tonight I'm gonna let Chris go right into it. Since it's a Halloween special, Chris, could you give the origins? Like, we talked about this earlier when I did your pre-interview. Like, can you kind of go into like the origins of Halloween, how that all got started, and why you helped start that? I'm just gonna cut this air on real quick. It's gotten kind of hot. But if you can just start right into that, and I'm gonna come right back. I'm not leaving. I'm still hearing you, but tell them about the
Sure.
origins of Halloween, and then we're gonna break it down and go into paranormal topics, y'all. After this, so don't leave. Stick around.
We
But
so
go
the
ahead,
origins of
Chris.
Halloween, definitely something I've been fascinated by, and you know, there are scholars that have tried to really dive deep into any archived records, and I suppose what they estimated, because some of them argue with each other about what the true origins are, but obviously it's at least 2,000 years old, at least, and could date back some aspects of it, and its ideas and thoughts and traditions could date back to the Neolithic era, and that's a long time ago. So, but what's fascinating to me is that I would say some of the basic elements of that night are carried on
Mm-hmm.
to currently right now. And, and are celebrated around the world more so than ever. And I was talking to Bettina about this earlier, and this is what's
I'm
really
still here.
fascinating to me is that, see, let's say a movie like John Carpenter's Halloween comes out in 1978, And that is a popular movie around the world. It's using a holiday as its moniker. It's really about a masked killer, but it does take place on Halloween night. So what that does is it puts it in the consciousness of people around the world that that holiday is worth celebrating, because well before that, a lot of people didn't really celebrate that holiday outside of the US and England, Ireland. But now it's celebrated all around the world. And that's the evolution of culture. It travels. And now, because obviously the internet, it travels fast. And so I suspect if that evolution keeps on going, the traditions of Halloween are going to be a global thing. And now there's a discussion of that as that because people go back to its early form and they say, well, people were being sacrificed. It was a brutal holiday. Well, there are scholars that argue with each other about that because they do the same things with the Mayan culture too. They're like, well, yeah, there were sacrifices in for religious reasons. There were sacrifices around the world for certain things, but we're not doing that now. And I think the traditions of the idea, the basic idea that that particular time of year, which is to them it was Samhain for the Celts, the end of summer. Um, that's when the veil between the living and the dead, or things from other dimensions, not just souls of deceased human beings, but other things, could come through. And
Yes.
it's a celebration of our mortality and perhaps immortality. It's a celebration of those ancient traditions that have gone through an evolution. And it's also a celebration of the paranormal and of horror films and of, spooky stories. And so that's part of the evolution too. And I think it's just as significant because you have purists that say, well, you're not really celebrating Halloween. Of course we are. Things evolve, ideas evolve, and you have to let them. These are my beliefs, and then it's based off of a lot of research and my feelings over the years. Some people know Halloween as an innocent thing. It's a tradition that it celebrates all of these aesthetics, and other people are dead serious about it. And then yet there are other people who practice dark magic and utilize that as a night of power to harness power, but that's not everybody. So you can so in other words, if there are cautions and things about that particular holiday, it doesn't apply to every single person around the world as this thing evolves who's celebrating it, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Chris, so we so basically you have like Halloween and then you have dark origins of it also. A lot of people look at that and they tie that together, and I guess some of the origins are with sacrifice and stuff like that when it comes down to I don't know if a Black Sabbath has anything to do with that. I'm not too in tune as far as that and stuff is concerned. But when people think of Halloween, a lot of them that are not just Christians looking for a day to go out and get candy for their kids, they're looking at it like, other people who know what it's really about, then there's different aspects of that. All Hallows Eve, All Saints Day. Can you go into that and kind of break that down for people so they know what that is? And then after that, we will go straight into some other topics related to the paranormal and the occult.
Sure. All Hallows Eve, All Saints Day came from the Romans seizing it from the Celts and kind of transforming, like I said, in that evolution, transforming those traditions now into honoring the martyrs. And and again, it was taken back, because we celebrate more so of a commercialized fun version of the traditional Halloween. All of those aspects are there, and the trick or treating aspect was there in ancient times too. It just had a different configuration to it. So what I'm saying is, all those essential elements carried on, and it went through its evolutions, and I believe that's okay. We should it's the only way we become elevated, and we should also keep records of how these things evolve. And I think if you have an extreme fear of the holiday, then that is your reality. If you don't, then that's your reality. If it has no negative effect on you, then that's your reality. And these are just my beliefs. I'm not going to stray from my own beliefs either. Like this is how because Halloween does not disturb my essence at all, my soul or energy. It doesn't hurt it. Only certain people do. If you're around the wrong person on Halloween, they can definitely bring some bad energy your way. Um, And I'm certainly, not a practitioner of black magic, so I have nothing to worry about.
Absolutely. So let's talk about a few things when it comes down to this. First, before I go into some of the topics I was going to go into tonight, I wanted to ask you basically, when you do a lot of interviews, I know you have your show and you interview people on your show about their paranormal experiences, whether some of them were alien experiences, shadow men. Um, you had a lady on your show that was talking about a night terror, and that was the presentation that I saw you share before you started talking at the conference. Can you tell the people who are here listening right now, can you tell them about that? Because I found that absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. So in that particular episode, and it is called, oh wow, what did we call? I forgot the name of that particular episode. It is called the not the witching hour, demon time. So if you find that one, you can go to YouTube and look up Strange World and
Yes.
just type in my last name, and you'll find the demon time episode. So that begins with me taking part in a very unique
Yes.
sleep experiment in Texas. And so I actually went to a facility. They hooked up all sorts of little electrode thingies to me and were monitoring my brain patterns and my vital signs during sleep. And they found that immediately I went into a REM sleep. And I can tell you that I do. Sometimes I can literally just close my eyes and I'll be in a dream state. And that is since, and I have it here in my house, I used a device called the God Helmet. It was designed by a man named Michael Persinger. Okay. And he believed that
Mm-hmm.
the prefrontal lobe, when affected by a large amount of electromagnetic energy, whether it be a geomagnetic field, and that could be near your house, under your house, or on artificially induced
Mm-hmm.
electromagnetic waves, really penetrating that area, can simulate the feelings of not only heightened psychic abilities, but a haunting. So I used it twice in my lifetime. Now I actually have it in the garage. I have not used it since I used it for Strange World because I had these weird micro naps after where I would be deep into these lucid dreams. And I had some night terrors
Mm-hmm.
after that. So in that episode, I just need to preface that by saying if you go to the first episode of Strange World, I had used the God helmet. And I'm telling you that when I went into the sleep experiment, I was heavily affected by the usage of the God helmet. So, and we never really talked about those two things together on that one Demon Time episode. So, um, I think, and I think Persinger believed, even though it's not really in the literature too much, because he was getting grants, he was a true scientist, and he was, I
Mm-hmm.
think it was Mary Roach who wrote several books like that book Stiff, and she explored the afterlife. And she had asked him because she went in one of his other devices called the Haunt Box, and the haunt box was about the size of a freight elevator. And she went in there and she said, as soon as those electromagnetic waves were induced, that she started to hear things that were not in the room. And it's a really interesting thing. Unfortunately, Persinger died. I know his team is continuing the research, but the God helmet is like a smaller version. And there was another thing called, I believe, the octopus, and you would put it on your head, and it would somewhat simulate the same thing that the haunt box was doing. Um, and the idea was, okay, when Persinger was asked, "Are you? Is this a hallucination caused by the geomagnetic waves and fields, or are you really experiencing something from another? Is it unlocking some other dimension?" And I personally feel Persinger believed that that was a strong possibility, that a heavy amount of
Mm-hmm.
geomagnetic waves was conducive to being able to experience a haunting. So that might explain why certain people are affected in particular locations, in haunted houses, haunted apartment buildings, that the geomagnetic field is strong in that area. And that's why it's happening. I mean, I'd be interested in experimenting more with this. And I think, in this very late stage of editing The Haunting We Will Go, there is some of that in there. And I might attempt to do a little bit more in the next 2 months because I wanted to regard that even more so. And I think that's the future of ghost research, is that let's continue something that someone like Michael Persinger put so much into, that you might be able to experience a haunting by simulating what is causing it. Because sometimes we just feel like, well, we're just, it's the roulette wheel, and now there's a ghost in my house. Well, why?
Mm-hmm.
And parapsychologist Barry Taff really was also interested in that. He was looking into that and thinking perhaps its location, its body chemistry, all mixed with these things. And so in that episode, I go into the sleep experiment fully understanding of what I learned through the research of Persinger. And now you're exploring the idea of night terrors and why you're having them, and why people are having them at the so-called witching hour, which is, between 2 and 3 a.m. area. And so the woman that I interviewed in that episode, she was being assaulted by what she thought was a traditional demon called a succubus, that it was after her husband, and that it was attacking her in her sleep,
Mm-hmm.
in her deep, lucid sleep. And she would wake up fighting this thing. Now, those concepts are also in my new documentary, too, because I think, I love the idea of people glimpsing and seeing something. I've seen a ghost, what we think is a ghost. I only saw one once, and I heard one twice. And what is it? That's the first
Mm-hmm.
question. And are we, my brother lives in a house in Tampa, Florida. He's not one to exploit these ideas, and he's denying it, which is really interesting to me, because he's saying, I'm experiencing these things, but I'm not going to tell you it was a ghost, but this happened. And so that's so amazing to me, because most people will immediately exploit it. And I think it's also a very rare thing that you'll
Mm-hmm.
see a ghost, even though a lot of these ghost shows on some of the networks I worked for will
Absolutely.
tell you they see ghosts everywhere they go. I don't believe them. I happen to know if some of them are fudging those stories. So but I think you're privileged to have seen one, you know? Um, and then some people, I think, are very
Yes.
psychically tuned, very psychic, and they'll see things a lot. So I'm not denying
Uh-huh.
that. I just think, you know, for us to go forward with this type of research, I certainly feel like we shouldn't deny scientists like Persinger, because he was really looking into some unique stuff that I haven't seen in too many of these shows or even modern books. And there was another thing. I don't know if you ever saw the movie by John Carpenter called The Prince of Darkness. And it had a concept that
I feel
evil,
like I have.
okay, really interesting. And it balances between church and science in there in its philosophy. And the idea was that evil as well as good can live on a subatomic level, that it actually lives in our particles. And so the devil does exist. And, all of these demons do exist. And uh, to explain it would be such a heady thing. It's so metaphysical. It's beyond the basic explanation. So I believe we simplify it into these things for us to understand it. And night terrors might be a visit from a demon. It might not just be a bad dream or a physiological reaction manifesting as this bad
Mm-hmm.
dream. It might be actually a bad energy, a cosmic energy that's coming to visit. I've talked about these things with Wolf Josh Turner a lot, and I know he's experienced quite a few things. So,
Uh-huh.
um, we're planning on something. We're planning on a collaboration, a visual collaboration, a movie. So.
Yes, he mentioned you yet last night on Blondes and Booze show. Well, so what ended up happening with the lady who was having the night terrors and fighting this thing? What ended up happening with that situation? Did
So
she get any help,
yeah,
or
she
what?
did. So Joy Wilburn, who is an exorcist, she's a deliverance minister, and I had Joy on my podcast as well. But Joy, if you remember, she wanted to perform an exorcism on me, and I kind of was against it, because if there was something to be released, I did not want to release that for my audience on the show. I didn't want to lose control. But she's awesome. And
Mm-hmm.
so the woman that I interviewed was visiting Joy to try and exorcise this succubus, right? And I
Absolutely.
think it was successful. You know, there's only so much you can cover in one of these episodes. So as much as I wanted to stick around and do more,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't, you know, and on my independent documentaries, I can do whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. But, you know, on the network shows, they're always pushing you
Mm-hmm.
along to the next thing. But Joy
Now,
isn't it?
I want to
Hey, John.
know. No, go ahead.
I was just saying hello to John. He said, "Hey, Christopher."
Now, I got a question for you, Chris. Like with that sleep study that you, first of all, what made you decide to start doing the God helmet? What made you start doing a sleep study? What were you going through even got you into that? Because I could exchange stories with you on sleep paralysis, could talk about lucid dreaming and night terrors and stuff like that too for people. But why did you start doing that? What was
I
happening?
have, yeah, I have vivid, lucid, elaborate dreams every time I sleep, and sometimes they might be premonition dreams. You know, about 6 years ago, I had a dream that there were a fleet of soldiers parachuting into an area with, you know, machine guns and flamethrowers and killing people at a festival type situation. And that just happened. I'm not saying I predicted that. I'm just saying I had a dream that was very similar to what just happened in Israel. And recently I had another dream that this bomb, this giant bomb, had a stripe on it, was being dropped over a city. And you know, I don't know if they're
Mm-hmm.
premonitions or deeply rooted fears. I don't think we know enough about dreams. We don't even know what they are, why we're having them. And to me, that's quite fascinating because we could be visiting some other world or some other dimension. It could be tons of messages for us. This could all come full circle after this physical death, you know? We might learn more. Because why are we seeing these things? And so I was hoping that going through the sleep study, I might find out a little bit more. But as much as they could do in a very short period of time, the doctor was able to tell me he knows for a fact that I am deep in a dream state very quickly, like moments after I close my eyes. And I already knew
Yes.
that, but I want to, you know, so in other words, even these guys that spend, you know, day in, day out, tons of money and research, they know a lot, but they don't know everything. And I suspect that I mean, there's a dream doctor, a sleep doctor named Susie Hernandez. I wanted to interview um, soon. Maybe I'll learn more from her. And I'm open to trying these things because that's how I learn. I'm here to learn. I
Mm-hmm.
just see myself as an astronaut on this, you know, like alien astronaut, crash landed on this planet, trying to learn about it. And so I'm trying different things that won't hurt me. Uh, but to explore further as opposed to because I love reading, but I want to try and experience these things as much as
Mm-hmm.
possible. Like I said, without damaging myself. I haven't used the God helmet since the first time because I don't know where that's going to go. And I wouldn't want to push it to a place where I'm disturbed, you know?
Well, I'm gonna say some things about some of the stuff you're talking about right now with the sleep study, the sleep dreams. People don't understand. It comes to sleep disorders, as they call it. And for me, I don't just this is just my personal opinion, y'all. So I'm not an expert. I'm just giving you my personal opinion based experiences I've had with sleep paralysis. Um, and Chris, after I get through talking about sleep paralysis, I want like for you to talk about lucid dreaming and break that down specifically what that is and night terrors. But what I want to say real quick, y'all, when it comes to sleep paralysis, for me, and for a lot of people, a lot of the scientific community says that it's cognitive and hypnopompic hallucinations, and that your body basically shuts its I guess your mind or your central nervous system shuts your body down to where you can't move when you go to sleep at night so that you don't hurt yourself in your dreams. Or what? I disagree with that. And I'll tell y'all why. Like the reason I disagree with that, and everybody has a right to your own opinions, and it's fine. Like we're just here to discuss things. Some people deal with their sleep paralysis or different thought processes on these things. however you deal with it. But if it's never happened to you, then, or if it has happened to you and it's a positive experience for you, then kudos to you. But for a lot of people, when it comes to sleep paralysis and night terrors and nighttime visitations and stuff like that, it's a very terrifying experience. Some of this that I'm talking to y'all about tonight, y'all usually hear me talk about Dog Man and Bigfoot and stuff like that, but I never really go into some of the paranormal aspects. I don't do too many shows on it, but tonight I kind of want to go into it. Like I said, I'll just be doing prayers and stuff like that after the show is over with. But I think it's important because a lot of people are going through some understand, and maybe my answer might help you. But what I've noticed is that through the years, when it comes to sleep paralysis, the reason that I don't feel like that it's based on these hallucinations that the scientific community or the sleep study and scientists in the different schools that have these sleep studies, I don't agree with it because I know that in some cases, just as Chris was giving you an example off of one of the documentaries he did before, the lady in that situation, she would wake up fighting it. Sometimes people will wake up from sleep paralysis, um, whether that's after the fact that you actually come back to your body. When I say come back to your body, sometimes with sleep paralysis, it can come in different forms. Sometimes you can have sleep paralysis and have an out of body experience with that, where your spirit actually leaves your body. And I don't know if that will be the same thing as astral projection, but we'll go into that in a few minutes. I'll have Chris to discuss some of that. But sometimes you'll have times when your spirit will leave your body, or sometimes you're not leaving your body at all, or maybe you are, you're just not aware of it. But there's been times during sleep paralysis, and for those of you who don't know what sleep paralysis is, some people call it old hag, the witch riding your back in some cultures. It's called different things in different cultures. But what it is that when you go to sleep at night, usually you can have it in any position, but one of the most popular positions to have sleep paralysis is when you're laying on your back. You fall asleep, and then usually they say it's within the first, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 minutes after going to sleep or before waking up. And you will have this sensation of not being able to move. You literally can't move. Just the way you would get up and you don't like a nightmare or a bad dream that you're having, and you say, well, you know what, let me end this. I don't like where this is going. I've always been able to wake up from a terrible dream, a regular dream. Or if you wake up in the middle of the night because you got to pee, you got to use the bathroom, or what, you can get up. Why is REM sleep, or why is these processes that paralyze your body to keep you from hurting yourself? Why are those processes not taking place at those? It's selective. The reason I say that it's also one of those things that I don't feel like it has anything to do with being some type of hallucination is during these sleep paralysis experience. A lot of the times, and this is not always the case, everybody's experiences are different. But a lot of the times, before you even become aware that you're paralyzed, first you become aware that there's a presence in the room with you. You can feel it. It projects. Some people say it projects a feeling of evil. What do you call it? Gloom and doom, fear. You're terrified. You can't move. A lot of people don't know that the movie Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger, that movie was based off of sleep paralysis. A lot of people don't know that. So when it came to Nancy or any of her friends or whatever on that movie, it was like, if I fall asleep and you see me moving or anything like that, and you can't wake me up, sleep paralysis was based off of it. That movie was based off of sleep paralysis. Another thing I want to say about sleep paralysis, real quick, too, is that you become aware, like I was saying before I cut myself off, you become aware that there's another presence in the room. You can feel it. Sometimes during these experiences with sleep paralysis, once you have realized you can't move, you can't get up, you cannot scream, you can't talk, you can't say a word. You're not, and for people who don't understand what it really is, which to me is demonic. It's demonic visitations, and I'll explain that why too. Like I said, some people embrace this, and some people purposely try to have sleep paralysis and lucid dreaming. I don't, because my experiences with it have always been negative. Another reason why I feel like that it's not hallucinations or hypnoponic, the hallucinations. Another reason I say it's not that too is because some people, let's say there's a husband and wife in the bed, or sister and brother, and they sleep in the same bedroom. There's been plenty of times where people have actually woke up and they look over at their brother and they see what is actually standing in the room, hovering over their bed. there's times you wake up from sleep paralysis or things like that, and you wake up to being dragged out of the bed, covers being dragged out of the bed. There's people who've actually took video recordings of themselves and set it up in their homes because they were having so many different uh, they were having so many different episodes of this enough that they decided to start seeing what was going on. They would sleep over this. Now, I'm gonna have Chris discuss this a little bit if he can, or but I'm gonna have him to talk about something else. But I just want to also let y'all know that a couple other things I want to say about it, and I'm gonna let Chris have the floor. Is that when it comes to paralysis, a lot of the times, one of the main characteristics that I forgot to bring up when it comes to sleep paralysis is that you feel like there's this huge, heavy weight on your chest, something holding you down in the bed. You can be asleep on the couch, wherever you're asleep at, but if you're a person who deal with this, then you know that you can be held down in the bed. People will see different things. Not all entities are the same. Sometimes it'll be completely invisible and you won't see anything that's there at all. At other times, you will see shadow people. Some people see, if y'all have seen the movie The Grudge or The Ring, it old hag. They can look like a multitude of different entities that show up in your home. Some people see the grays, but the common denominator in all of this is that you cannot move unless these things release you or unless you pray and release it. Some people say if you just can wiggle your finger a little bit, but I found that prayer is pretty much the only way. And at times, depending on how strong the entity is that's in the room, at times I've had to call on the angels to actually come because my prayer is not working right now and I need God to literally so there's a lot of things that I just want to say that it's not a hallucination. You're not crazy. These are things that are actually real. Chris, what are your thoughts on that? And have you had anybody else to give you some encounters or stories about sleep paralysis?
Yeah, actually. And, I'll first start with you mentioned A Nightmare on Elm Street. I believe that Wes Craven, he was always
Mm-hmm.
looking at headlines before he came up with a new idea. And obviously, he was influenced by other horror films too. But A Nightmare on
Yes.
Elm Street, he was reading about, I think it was either in Singapore or Vietnam, that people were falling asleep and they were before they died. They were saying that they were having these
Mm-hmm.
horrible nightmares and that there was a being in their nightmare that was following them. And then many of these people died. So that's like the core, the nucleus of what inspired his idea for A Nightmare on Elm Street. So it was a very, like you said, it was a very real thing. Um, I've had sleep paralysis, I would say a handful of times, maybe 5 times in my lifetime. And each time you have this horrible feeling that it's a weird juxtaposition because I had this incredible feeling of being so relaxed that it was scary. That's the only way I can explain it. And as if I were to allow myself to
Mm-hmm.
fall deeper into that, I was afraid 100% that I wasn't coming back. And for some reason, it was my instinct translating that feeling. Does that make sense? It was like I'm preventing myself from
Absolutely.
going deeper into whatever this feeling, something was pulling me. And it was a feeling of dread. And not only was it a feeling of dread, but it also felt like something else was there. Okay. And I would say most of the time I was conscious of laying in the bed and conscious of the fact that I couldn't move my body. And I was fighting so
Yeah.
hard that then I would physically wake up kicking and maybe even punching the nightstand or the wall, trying to get out of whatever this was, like to break the paralysis. Those were my experiences with it, and it was just this extreme feeling of dread and nothing that's enjoyable at all. And it makes you wonder what this all is. I know there was a really good documentary about sleep paralysis called The Nightmare. Did you see that one?
Yes, I did. That was
Okay.
terrifying.
Yeah. And I
I did
cover
see
it
that.
in
There
A
was a
Haunted We
guy.
Will Go. What's that?
Do you remember the guy? Do you remember the guy on that? And because I've seen a couple of sleep paralysis documentaries, was there the guy on there who actually he had to his family, his wife and children had to lock themselves in their room at night in order to not get harmed? Him because he would actually wake up during his sleep paralysis fighting something that only he could see. Was this that
I believe that
documentary?
was the one. Yeah, yeah. I- I'd have to go back to it and review it. I saw it when it first came out some years ago, but I remember being quite terrifying and accurate to the feeling of what that is. And I discussed that also in the new doc, but because it falls in that category. And I think these experiences are what lend to the imagination of all of the engineers of horror stories and ghost stories, and at least in fiction, like we have experiences and then we write them and we create them as fiction. But I believe a lot of these things
Mm-hmm.
are very real. And for instance, I think the writer H.P. Lovecraft, I think I think it wasn't just visions. I think he was having true experiences and he was writing that stuff. Most writers of science fiction, at
Yes.
least powerful ones, are channeling something, or science fiction and horror. They're writing. So Stephen King has written some really curious things, like even stories like The Dead Zone, Firestarter, and The Mist were all about these underground government type programs, that were working with psychics and that were trying to open up portals. That's very Montauk stuff. And he wrote The Mist well before, I was aware of the Montauk Project. So interesting stuff that these people are channeling, or at least maybe know about. They're putting these ideas out there. So the sleep paralysis idea is in a lot of stories through history about nightmares, and people have experienced this. The question is, what is it? What are we really experiencing? Are we experiencing some kind of deep subconscious anxiety and fear manifest into these demons? Or is that really what's happening? Like, one concept that I heard, and this is very H.P. Lovecraft type stuff, is that there are these cosmic energies, okay, that surround us, and they're somewhat amorphous.
Mm-hmm.
But they thrive off of a spike of energy, and mostly negative energy. And so, if, let's say, and I heard this story, this new couple moved into a house, and
Mm-hmm.
they just started fighting. Like, why are they fighting? Why are they fighting? They just didn't understand it. They never fought before, but now they're in this new house and they're arguing and at each other's throats to the point of almost violence. And I think it was the boyfriend or the
Absolutely.
husband that said, "Listen, there's something wrong. There's something in this house. There's something doing this to us." And so those are those cosmic
Are
energies that I'm
this.
talking about. That, imagine, if you will, like there's like these invisible floating jellyfish cloud things that thrive off of negative energy. And if there's
Mm-hmm.
negative energy, then they grow. And that negative energy affects the humans even worse. And it just gets worse and worse and worse until chaos ensues and they have influence on us. And so my philosophy is that now you can call them demons, you can call them whatever you want, because that's pretty much what they are. They're these amorphous
No,
cosmic
absolutely.
energies, yeah, that attach to us, and they can influence us too. They can increase if you have, if you're a little cranky, it could be increased to the point where you're violent, and no one knows why. I mean, I've heard story after story of just these senseless murders within the family. The Amityville Horror is one of them. I mean, say what you will about Ron DeFeo and that he was a drug addict and all that, but he killed his whole family with a rifle mysteriously, just shot everybody, his little sisters, his brother, his father, and his mother in one night. And then later said that he felt, and some people thought he was lying, but he was in prison for life, that he was possessed. That he had said that, I think, at the time of his trial, and then said that before his death again. So was it these things that are influencing people? Are these cosmic energies out there, and are we being influenced by them? Are they finding people who are easily influenced and attaching themselves like parasites? They're good questions to ask because we don't really know, but some people have thought this.
Absolutely.
So,
So, and I think that's very interesting too. And I think that these are things that like don't get, because it's just not too many people. Everybody has a theory about it, but I think a lot of people who deal with it when it comes to sleep terrors and all that kind of stuff. I just wanted to make sure that I put it out there. And like some people, like I said, you may feel like it's just a natural dream state or whatever, but it's kind of different when it comes down to it, especially when it comes to people who have woken up and seen things. Some people wake up with scratches on their body, bite marks, and bruises. A different aspect also when it comes to sleep paralysis as well, that can be either separate element or part of it, is also what we have called the incubus and the succubus. The succubus is a male spirit that can and basically tries to molest or have sex with women, and then the one that comes into men is called the succubus. So the incubus for women, the succubus for men, and these spirits will come in and they will basically have sex with people. And I don't know how to rationalize that, because you would think a spirit wouldn't be able to do anything like that where you could actually tangibly feel that. But then if you're Christian, you look at the Bible, and when it talks goes into like the fallen angels coming in into the daughters of men, so they're coming into humans. They were able to take on a flesh and blood type form. Now, I'm not saying that these spirits are coming in that way. However, they're able to do it at times. I guess I'm just going to have to assume that spirits are able to do different things that they should not, or that we don't understand how they're able to do it. You even have spirits that, I guess that ghost huntings and stuff like that, coming into people's homes, knocking on doors, scratching on walls, like knocking plates and different stuff around in the homes. Um, do you think that that has something to do with an electromagnetic field also, Chris? What gives them that power, ability to be able to do it if they're in spiritual form?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think that makes us more susceptible not only to seeing these things, but experiencing them. And perhaps they can attach themselves to certain people. The only way we would really find out the answers to a lot of these questions is if people continued to be as open-minded in terms of scientists, to be as open-minded as Persinger. And I think with quantum physics and quantum sciences, that's going to happen. I think that a lot of the phenomena that people experience will eventually be explained because okay, it can be explained on two different levels. The mystical has always existed, and the mystical is just one way of explaining it, and the scientific level is the physical, physiological, atmospheric, chemical, elemental reactions recorded that they know for a fact those things are reacting. The mystical is saying there is other beings outside of us, the physical things, the animals, us,
Mm-hmm.
the earth, the, plant life, everything. Like there's something beyond this, and there's something cosmic, and science will tell you, probability that there is life, extraterrestrial life, conscious life on billions of other planets or in billions of other solar systems is very high. Anyone that denies that's a moron. Like you just don't know. You're not accepting that mathematics already told you the truth. So if that's the truth, then it's safe to assume between, because again, if someone's challenging you saying, well, science doesn't see this, and yes, it does. Yes, it has. You could bring up Michael Persinger, you can bring up probability, you can bring up so many things. So all of the mystical things that we discuss and the paranormal has been recognized by science in many different ways. And so quantum sciences eventually will explain probably a good deal of the things that we're experiencing in that paranormal mystical realm. It just needs more funding and more open-mindedness. However, I discovered along the way that we're being lied to. They've been looking into these things for a long time. Government has been spending a lot of money to explore psychic abilities, interdimensional doorways, time travel, all of these things. It's been proven that they have been experimenting with these things, augmenting human
Absolutely.
abilities, changing people into something else. They're already using DNA from animals to change people to make a better soldier, a better being, to enhance human abilities and change us. So I would say look into fiction, because fiction is telling you a lot of things about reality. And I think the lines have completely blurred. To me, as a guy who grew up loving this stuff, I think it's kind of neat that we actually live in the Twilight Zone. It's not boring, but there are also some really sinister things in our midst, and that's where it becomes real, and you have to protect yourself. You have to.
Chris, just for a second, and I'm not going to take up too much time on this, but this is laughable right now, and I want to post this on the screen real quick just so everybody can
Sure.
see this right now. And moderators, like I said before, y'all pay attention to the comments, but y'all remember the person in a certain individual's live chat that left that chicken and watermelon comment towards me. Well, here they are again. Little Bree Bree.
Oh
Y'all
God.
read that comment right there.
Delete
DoorDash
it.
has an order of chicken. I'm
Don't
deleting
pay.
it. I'm getting ready to block
Don't
them
pay
too.
any
But
attention to it.
moderators, it's laughable
It's
at this point
ridiculous.
because what they're doing. I'm sorry, y'all. Listen, little Bree Bree, you are so
That's
childish. This is so ridiculous
Whoever
to the
that
point where
is
I
the
can't.
same. Listen, it's the same person that did it last time. Who cares?
It
You
is.
know, I
I
mean,
just wanted to make sure because I don't
yeah.
even. I'm not even trying to like post this stuff up there, but this is what I say. Like when it comes to racism, I don't know who Lil Bree is, but I'm just saying like you're getting ready. You're about to move right now. Moderators, please
Little
get
Bree
on
Bree
it
is the
and
same
keep
person that said it last time. There's not more than one person doing
the
this, and
same.
if they are, they're a small, mindless team. Who cares? You know, I know it's tough to hear that stuff, but
It's
it's not
annoying.
obviously.
It's
Yeah,
annoying if anything.
yeah.
Y'all watch the comments because I'm not like I'm not gonna pull them up every time, but I just had to make sure that I let little Bree know that I did read their comments before and that they are now blocked from the channel. Anybody else who comes over here, I'm just gonna let y'all know. Like at this point, it's laughable, and I'm not gonna waste my time on it because this is not what this show is about. But it's laughable. It's hilarious now because I'm 44 years old. I'm not a teenager. I'm not a child. Like so, the
I
little
like
name
fried chicken
calling
and
and the back
watermelon.
and forth.
So if you want to send
I
some,
do
I'll have
too.
some. Yeah, so
All of that.
you know,
Red Kool-Aid and everything else. So anything else
bring
y'all
it.
want to throw out there, I like all of that. And fish and grits and all that too. I'll be that.
Yeah.
And if that's supposed to be, I'm just okay. But I'm not going to take up any more time on the show. I just had to put that out there because sometimes you got to laugh at these people because at this point it's hilarious. And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is that the best
No.
you got? You wanted to come with the food comment. I'm not going to waste time. But I wanted y'all to see that so y'all can see that in real time.
Yeah,
But
just know
anyways,
it's the same person that's doing it, obviously. You know, this is not a bunch of people hanging out doing this.
Chris, lucid dreaming. Can you talk about lucid
Right.
dreaming and specifically break that down? Because some people say that you can actually control that and be able to make yourself go into lucid dreaming. What is that exactly? Is night terror something separate? But go into lucid dreaming
Well,
first.
I think night terrors is an element of lucid dreaming where it can go south, where it can go in the wrong direction. I mean, at least in because it's not enjoyable. Night terrors are not enjoyable. Lucid dreaming is though. And lately, it's weird. Like for a long time, I think maybe because of some of the experiences I had as a kid, I would always leave the TV on when I went to sleep. I don't know why. And lately, I would say in the last year, I would shut everything off. Like I almost can't wait to get into that sleep state so I can experience the dreams because the dreams are so vivid. And so I think when you have some control over it, okay, there's since I was a kid, and I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this as well. In your lucid dream state, is there one or two abilities? And these are like abilities we don't have, at least not right now here. So, do you have telekinetic powers? Can you fly? Can you do these things? I can do these things in dreams. And the flying, I think a lot of us can relate. Like maybe you can float up a little bit, get some momentum, and then start to hover and move to different places. I can do that. And that happens in my lucid dreams a lot. Um, and that's pretty amazing because you have that same ability. Uh, and we did also talk earlier that every now and then it occurs to me blatantly that this isn't just a dream. You know, like I'm somewhere else. I just spoke to someone who had passed away a long time ago, and it was random. And I woke up with the feeling that this wasn't just a dream. This was very real. that I saw this person, that I had a conversation with them. Um, Something very different about it. It's almost like you register it subconsciously, you understand it, and you wake up with that understanding, that definition of what you just
Mm-hmm.
experienced. You don't know why, it just happened. But I have dreams all the time, and I don't wake up from them saying this was real. I'd say this is bizarre, and that I should start writing these things down, because there is a lot of symbolism. The one time that I did write things down, I started to decipher it. I'm like, oh, this must mean this, and this really does mean this. And it's so strange how all these messages are there. Um, but yeah, I believe you could have control over a lucid dream. It doesn't happen all the time to me, but it has happened.
All right. So, y'all, real quick, Chris, let me go to the other topic on here because I had quite a few things. And like I said, moderators, y'all make sure that y'all check the comments in the chat. Don't even go back and forth, try to be negative in there. It's time to move forward from that. If y'all see anything, remove it and block them and just get them out. Block them. They don't need to come back. Chris, let's, while we're into it, I'm gonna move forward from dreams and stuff like that, y'all. We can do a whole nother show next time just alone on sleep issues because there's so many different aspects. I didn't even get to really go into it with him on astral projection and some other things when it comes to sleep, sleepwalking. Some people talk in their sleep, and I forgot. I think that's called somniloquy or something like that.
Hmm,
When you're talking, you're
that's
sleeping. I'm a
interesting.
sleep talker also, and it's really weird. Yeah, I think that's called somniloquy.
Has anyone ever
But what I
interviewed
do
you
want
while
to
you were
talk
sleeping next to them?
no, but I have had people at times like my ex-husband, he used to like to try to ask me questions during that time and I
Right,
hated it
right.
because there's no telling what I might say. But I've always wondered, I
He
will
saw
say
that as
this,
an
I've
opportunity to get the
always
truth.
wondered I've always wondered with that, like, is there something to that? Are we talking? Because people don't also, this is another thing I'm gonna throw out there before we move on to the sleep studies and stuff like that, y'all, the sleep so-called disorders, which is not. When you go to sleep at night and you go and have dreams or you astral project or lucid dream, paralysis, what's really happening to you is that you're going. What's happening to you in that moment is that you are basically in the spiritual realm. And that's my thoughts. Like Chris might have a whole different thought on that, but you're in the spirit realm. That's why a lot of times you come out of your dreams, and this is just my thoughts, but you come out of your dreams and you will, some dreams feel more real than others. You know that you just really had a discussion with your grandma. You know that you just really was somewhere else. You know that you just were able to fly down the street, if this is astral projection or astral travel, and you could see what your neighbor was doing in their bedroom, and then you asked them the next day about it because it was so real to you that you asked them about it and like, yeah, how did you know that? It's because your spirit leaves your body. Some people are able to do it at will and still come out of their body during sleep paralysis, and some people have no control over it. I will say this too, and I know I keep saying that we can do a whole show on sleep, but the movie Insidious was based on astral projection or astral travel,
Oh,
was it
yeah.
not, Chris? Did
Yeah,
you see
for
that?
sure. Yeah. Yeah, I have a creaky chair, sorry. But yeah, Insidious, it had, interesting that you had mentioned people getting attacked and even, raped by demons. The Insidious configuration of the lead elderly female parapsychologist and then the two assistants actually comes from Dr. Thelma Moss, uh, Barry Taff, and I think Kerry Gaynor, who were the three parapsychologists over at the UCLA Parapsychology Unit. And they studied these things direct, and that was absorbed into several movies. The Entity, which was a true story about a woman originally named, her character's name, Carla Moran in the movie, but in real life, her name was Doris Bither. She was brutally attacked by this entity, and then Thelma Moss, Kerry Gaynor, and Barry Taff all witnessed this thing appear in the room. And at that time, we didn't have Photoshop, and we only had filmic photographs. So they they took these photos that could not. Experts said there's no way light could bend like this, even in a fake, not even in a fake at that time, right? So they saw,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a full-bodied apparition. 7 people from UCLA and Doris Bither and her son, all in unison, saw this thing appear, and she was yelling at it, because it was raping her. It was
Wow.
attacking her in her sleep, or when she was wide awake too. And so that that was when UCLA had a parapsychology unit. We don't have that anymore, and it makes you question. I think more people look. They've been, certain people were going after the government saying you need to release these files on UFOs. You should also release files on the paranormal. Why are you, the governments of the world, doing these studies under the ground, and we're not? It's for entertainment purposes only. And so that idea in Insidious came from that configuration of very real people. And so did the study of the astral projection and all of those ideas. I'm sure James Wan was really looking deep into his own research, and obviously got, that dynamic was used in Poltergeist. It was used in a lot of different films. So it comes from a real thing. And real people that were using science to try and explore the unknown. And and then we see it in many interpretations. And I have a very old book on astral projection. So all of this, none of this stuff is new. It's all been studied for many, many years. And of course, if governments and especially military figures, we can make better soldiers if they can remote view and see plans. I worked with, it's also in an episode of Strange World. I worked with remote viewer number one over at the Monroe Institute, and also outside of there too. And I was in New Mexico, and I also went to another place in the Salton Sea and worked with several different people who all were part of different configurations of government experiments. And the main remote viewer said that I had a pretty strong ability because he was putting me through the test systems. And so these are the test systems that the government used. And what I'm getting at is a lot of us have these abilities to see, but we're suppressed by the lack of practice. We're suppressed by the lack of us being able to develop these abilities. So imagine, if you will, and between social studies and math class, there was a psychic development class in early development. I think a lot of us would be heightened, but they're keeping it from us on purpose. Why would they
Absolutely.
want us to have these abilities? So I would say try to develop these things on your own, and a lot of us do, because you might find more answers that you're looking for. Otherwise, it'll be stagnation. I love stories. I can listen to stories for the rest of my life, but what I'm really interested in is finding out more about our potential, and through these stories. And so those movies are great because they'll spark your idea to experiment if you're willing to do that. I personally don't want to invite demons into my
Mm-hmm.
life, for sure. I have a lot of
It's
oddities and weird
terrifying.
things in this house. Yeah, I have to make sure that I'm not buying something that's bringing some weird energy in. Like, I have a lot of fictitious things, like you know, there's there's another movie, right? The Hellraiser puzzle box, right? So it's
Oh
meant
my
supposed to be this
God.
ancient device that's meant to let in demons from another dimension. Well, I think there are true things that do that. And one of those things might be, I'm not saying 100%, but might be the mass produced Ouija board that was in every toy store, throughout the 80s, and still is available in mass production. And Haley, who was a co-host on several episodes of Strange World, behind the scenes, she was always telling me of a story that when she was a little girl, she experimented with a Ouija board by herself, and there was a spirit called Zip.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he called himself, and he was coming through and speaking to her, and eventually she believed he was evil. Like, there was a really bad presence there until her mother, I think, took it away from her. But you get in contact with her, she'll tell you
Oh
the
wow.
story firsthand. But fascinating stuff. And so what I'm saying is fiction represents things that I think, even in The Exorcist, that was based on a true story, okay? But the idol that the character Father Merrin found in Iraq, which was the demon Pazuzu, which is based on a demon, ended up in Reagan's house, the girl, and she ended up being possessed because of that idol. So I think you had said once before that you believe that items can bring these things in You can have a negatively charged item. Now,
Yes.
that Hellraiser box is a toy. It's a fictitious toy, but I have a mask in my hallway that the woman I bought it from said, "Hey, there's a story to this mask." And I said, "Well, can you please tell me?" And I think her aunt had passed away and she never told me the story. But there's something really creepy about that mask. And then I have this vintage antique monkey with the symbols. And I'm telling you right now, I haven't really exploited this story. I'm just telling you now that he is looking towards the windows back there. Well, one night I'm sitting here doing a ton of work and I turn to my right and this thing's looking at me. Like his body's positioned where he's looking at me. And that's another thing that the people that it was purchased from claimed it has a story and that it's haunted. Now, sometimes I feel like this is all being sensationalized, but I did not move that thing. So, little weird little things here and there. And I have a Ouija board from Ukraine that, of course, I would never use, but I like the artwork that's carved into it. So, one night I had it in a cabinet and I'm falling asleep. This was in the house previous to this one. And that cabinet you had to pull really hard to open because it had a strong magnet closing it. And that thing popped
Mm-hmm.
open the first night I had that Ouija board and just opened up. So I've been a little more careful about getting these antiquities in the house.
It's just interesting that you mentioned bringing different things into the home that can welcome or draw in certain spirits. People don't realize that sometimes some objects, depending on where they were created, who they were created by, some music that you even bring into your home, some things have had curses put on them already, and some are cursed objects depending on the history or what home they came from. A perfect example of that would be the movie Annabelle. That movie Annabelle, The Conjuring, the doll, I think was in that movie. And then they did Annabelle off of that
Mhm.
movie. But that doll in that movie was very, very creepy. And of course, they had to do that for shock value because the doll was creepy, very creepy looking. But the actual doll, and if y'all are in your 40s, 50s, and up, then you know the original doll was a Raggedy Ann
Right.
doll. And if you do you know what I'm talking about, Chris? That was
I
back
know exactly what you're talking about.
back
I
in the
remember
day.
that, yeah, the Raggedy Ann and Andy musical adventure. I think the people that made that were on
Yeah.
acid. I guarantee if you trace it back, they were dropping LSD when they made that. But it's just a little footnote.
Well, so there's that. You brought up that the box that you were just showing like the movie Hellraiser, but then
Hmm.
also another thing I wanted to bring up too. I guess like in Ju- I guess Judaism. I don't know if it's Judaism, but I was watching a movie called The Possession, and that was based. I saw a documentary, and I can't remember if it was on Paranormal. I think it was on Paranormal Witness, and that episode was called The Dybbuk Box. They did a
Hmm.
movie called The Possession, and there was a box that was there, and I forgot what they called that spirit. I think the spirit was called a Dybbuk, but I believe that when it came to dark entities or demons or evil spirits, they would cast them into these boxes or different things, and they would trap them inside of it. And I, do you know anything about Dybbuk boxes or about that? Or can you speak on that specifically? If not, I can kind of come back to that another time and talk to them about that. I might
Yeah,
just
I
be fill
only
off
know a
getting
little
lost.
bit. Yeah, if we were going to go deep into conversation with that, I would like to do a little more research. But I do know that, the
Yes.
idea of trapping something, it's similar to, even though it's a different action, to the exorcism or to cleaning a house or to, essentially cleaning a
Uh-huh.
house of bad spirits. All different cultures have that. So we must be inherently built with these mechanisms and also realizing that in every culture around the world that these things exist. They and you would only know that by researching these things. It seems to be in every culture throughout history is recognizing this particular thing that we've all experienced and all have interpreted it our own way. uh, so yeah, I think what you have is very different people all experiencing the same thing, and it's translated into their language and culture. But we all, as humans, are dealing with whatever this is, whatever we're dealing with, you know. And once again, Barry Taff, the
Hmm.
parapsychologist, wrote a book called Aliens Above, Ghosts Below. And I think it's talking about what you're talking about. It's like it could be one and the same, you know. This whole thing that's happening is one and the same. They're
Absolutely.
all it's all connected.
Chris, I'm going to take this question from Suge.
Sure.
Any idea what causes false awakenings? Do you know what false awakenings are?
Could it be you mean like kind of being in a deep dream and then all of a sudden coming out of it?
Suge, can you, if you're still out there, can you leave a comment down there for us and let us know like exactly what that is? If not, I might even actually the show because I'm not done talking about the sleep stuff, but I wanted to kind of cover a bunch of different things tonight with it. But I will come back and do another sleep more stuff on the paranormal aspect of this. But if you're still out there, leave a comment and let us know exactly what is false awakenings. But if I had to assume, I think I might kind of know what Suga is talking about. And anybody else who knows, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that where you wake up from a dream? It's like a dream within a dream. You wake up and you think that the dream is, you think you're out of it, but you're still in it. I'm gonna assume that that's what you're talking about. If not, correct me down in the comments. Um, but Chris, what else did I have on there for you? We had so much different stuff. I know that it's 8:15 now, and I know you were good for till like 9:30 your time, and it's 8:15 now my time. Are you good, or did you need to go and we can bring you back another day?
I'm okay for a few more minutes, but I do have to go after that only because there's just so much that has to get done tonight.
Okay. All right. So y'all, we got 15 minutes. Y'all put y'all's questions down there in the chat because we're gonna get off here shortly. Um, but did you have anything else, Chris, that you want to talk about? If not, then I've probably got a couple more things that I can bring back up.
Well, I think one of the things that we did talk about in our warm up conversation was is is Halloween harmful? You know, could it be that we're inviting negativity into your life? And I think we kind of started off with that conversation, but to bring it full circle, no, I don't believe that's the case. I think um, you should release any fears of it because I think your perception and your true belief of something is truly how it's going to affect you. Um, Now, I don't mean dabbling in black magic. Like if you're happy about it, it's going to be great. I disagree. I think that it does have repercussions, uh, but essentially, Halloween won't bring bad things into your life. You know, if you're just celebrating the commercialized, traditional, modern version of Halloween that everyone's having fun with, just I have never I know when something is bringing bad energy in my life, and that holiday never has. It's been the polar opposite of that.
All right. Anybody, y'all out there? Let me come back to my phone. It's taking me too long to scroll on this laptop and make sure I'm not missing any comments. Y'all put y'all's comments in all caps. You got like 13 minutes left. I want to know real quick. I'm gonna ask you. One of the things that I had on there was we've already discussed Ouija boards, and we're kind of just going over stuff, y'all, tonight because I've gotten so many. Each topic that I have written down is a whole show or a whole conversation in and of itself. So we're not even really going in depth about some things. We didn't go into hauntings tonight. Hauntings, other things that I don't want to bring up right now because I'm in a good place right now, and I'll stay that way before I get ready to go to bed. But I will bring it up because I can't be scared. I mean, shadow beings and whatever stuff like that. There's so many different things to talk about, y'all. So many different things, and there's a correlation. And I'm just going to bring this together as we get ready to wrap up the show. One thing I want to say is that There's a correlation between not sleep paralysis, but paranormal cryptids, alien experiences, lights in the sky. A lot of people don't realize that those of us who've seen cryptids, if a lot of us also seen UFOs or had alien experiences, paranormal activity in the home. And so when you watch shows and stuff like that, it should become a point to where you get to trying to figure it out, like what is the common denominator. And there are some people more sensitive than others, but like Chris had said earlier, Chris, you correct me if I'm wrong. Were you saying earlier that you feel like a lot of us had these gifts or the ability to see things before, like this sixth sense, that we don't all have now? Like along the way, we've lost that ability.
I think at one point, maybe we were less distracted, less depleted, and that we were more psychically in tune, not only psychically in tune, but in tune to the earth, the energies of the earth, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're distracted by all of the artificial environment and all of the devices and all of the distractions within. And all of our, because we've, look, whether you can control your psychic abilities or not, we have them. We know we have them. I know, I was, okay, so like I had gone to the mall once, this years ago with my buddy. We walked outside. I think we had just bought CDs and we went to the car and we're opening stuff and talking. And we looked at each other like, should we move? And there was nothing there. It was like behind the mall in the parking lot area. And I'm like, yeah, we should. So I drove the car further towards the mall. 2 seconds later, this truck just barreled through. I mean, like, didn't even care where it was going, just came right through that area and would have
Mm-hmm.
destroyed us. We would have been obliterated. That's our psychic ability. That's us tuned in, because I think
I
the
agree.
animals can feel that too. You know, the creatures have those abilities. I think they're well in tune. They know when a storm is coming. They know when they can feel it. They know it, you know. Um, they know if they shouldn't go near something most of the time, depending on the animal. But we would be more in tune to that. And like I said, if okay, so we've been depleted and we've been distracted, and if what just question why the governments around the world are investing so much money and so much time into developing psychic abilities, yet all of the stuff I keep mentioning that's in fiction is paraded in front of us to keep us placated with those ideas. And as long as it's entertaining, and as long as, in a lot of cases, you know, again, I've made network shows and I've really worked hard to make something different, but a lot of those network shows are absolutely ridiculous and repetitive. Why don't we have more? And I'm not saying boring, more
Yes.
enlightening, exciting psychic material about the paranormal. Well, I'm here to make that. I know there's some other folks are out there making it too, and they want to do something different because the networks won't let you. And that's where conspiracy comes in. I believe that they want to keep it stupid, you know. And if because one of the mantras that they always said to me that I really completely disagreed with every single time and vocalized it to them was, "Hey, Christopher, the audience is stupid." I said, "No, they're not." So this is how these networks think of us. You're because I'm the audience too. You're stupid. That's what,
Absolutely.
and that's why they keep giving you the same thing over and over again. A bunch of idiots running through a house pretending like they're scared and pretending like they're seeing something. Well, they're not. And I'm not saying obviously I believe hauntings are real. It's just these guys aren't seeing it. Okay, they're lying to you. And so if that's all you're absorbing, then you're absorbing lies. I know how these shows are made. I make them. So I know that there are many different producers behind the scenes writing these things before they film them in every single one of those shows. And some people are like, "Well,
Absolutely.
I don't," they're like, "Oh, I don't care. I mean, it's like pro wrestling." No, it's not. Pro wrestling, you have real athletes and they're putting on a show for you and they're really getting hurt and the outcome might be predetermined, but they're doing something. The guys going in these locations saying that they're haunted, maybe those locations are haunted, but these people are not seeing any ghosts while they're there. That whole thing is fabricated for you to fit in an episode. Those episodes are pre-written. So what I'm saying is
Absolutely.
we we have been deceived, and it would be much better to approach this in a different way. And that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing because all of us have the ability. to go and make these things and present these ideas, and as we should, and you should encourage people to develop those abilities or keep open to things, and also be careful of what you're letting in while you do it.
Holly, I see your comment in there, and I do have some answers for you about that. I'll contact you. I'll message you after the show because there is something that you can do about that. And there, I don't know how often you have it. Came to sleep paralysis and the attacks and stuff like that. I started having that off and on. I was about 23, 24 years old. And I know what that came from. And it had nothing to do with anything that resulted with the occult. Certain different things in life. I don't know whether it's depression. I think a lot of different things as far as spiritual things, and some as either Christians or kids, teenagers, or whatever. Some things that we think are harmless, just like Chris was saying before, like the Ouija board was looked at one point in time as like a regular board game, but it's not. That's something you use to conjure up spirits. And a lot of people think it's just all in fun, and they say stuff like, "Well, you have to just make sure that you shut it down before you, just walk away from it. You have to make sure you completely shut it down." And I don't think, or you have to say goodbye, basically. And I don't think it's just that. Same with spirits. These spirits, when you open up and start having contact with them, for some people that feel like that all spirits are welcoming and opening up for you. So I'm not gonna, whatever makes you feel comfortable. I guess that's just what makes you feel comfortable. But for the ones that feel like it is your family member, then also keep in mind that by being a beacon and by using those devices and stuff like that, you are also opening a portal and a doorway into your home for other spirits to come in as well, not just the ones that you think are good, but the other ones as well. There's been times when people spoke to family members and that spirit came in and it pretended to be that person's family member, only later to start manifesting as something else and showing its true form. People have been attacked, kids have been attacked. And also, another thing I want to bring up to y'all as well is that when your children tell you that there's something under the bed or there's something in the closet or that there's something in the room, they're not, unless your child is like, always telling lies or just making up stuff all the time and just has an active imagination, like they're just not going to just make up something like that. And knowing what we know, y'all, we're into cryptids, we're knowing stuff about aliens and the paranormal and all this stuff like that. So sometimes people feel like, well, I don't want to start telling my children about these type of things because I scare them. And maybe there is a certain age to wait to tell them if they're not experiencing anything. But if you're a person who lives in a home and you have supernatural or paranormal experiences happening in your home, it's best maybe at those times discuss it with your children before they find out on their own, because these entities or spirits will try to do different things at times, luring them out of the house. Imaginary friends, sometimes they're not imaginary to you because you can't see them, but sometimes I think that little children and pets can see things that we can't see. And I'm sure you've heard some of those stories too, Chris.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, throughout my life, hearing stories of imaginary people that people are talking to. I had stories of little kids saying "in my past life," and they were very serious about it. And they would talk about details, and eventually that would fade away. So once again, all of this stuff we write about, whether it be in the paranormal libraries around the world or in fiction, is based off of very real phenomena that's happened and that is happening to us. It's an exciting time we live in because we're going to see a lot of things manifest. Some of those things I would much rather be on the page and on the screen because we don't want those things for real. But we're going to witness some of that too. And if we live through it and live well, then I guess it's an exciting time to be alive.
Absolutely. Now, y'all, it's at 8:30. Like we're ran out of time for tonight's show. So y'all make sure that you let me know what y'all wanted me to have on the show next. We got what, two more. So this is Sunday. We got Monday, Tuesday. I might do a show on Halloween. It just depends on how I feel. I might do one tomorrow, just kind of counting up. Y'all leave a comment and let me know what y'all want me to do. As far as like the next couple of shows, I'm gonna go ahead and do a few more. And then I will reach back out to Chris. Y'all let me know what you would like to have Chris back for. And Chris, are you going to be? Did you only do one season of your show,
Of that show, yeah. I know before
Strange
that I did.
World?
Yep, I did a special called The Dark Files before that, and now my new show is called Off to the Witch Presents, and every episode is different. And this week there's going to be some press for the first 1 hour. Well, no, it's more than an hour. It's feature length episode of A Haunting We Will Go, and then the second one is called Monsters Among Us, which is about the the savagery of killer crocs and gators living in suburban areas where they can kill you. Then the third episode is called The Phantom Killer, and it's about a murderer many years ago that was killing on lovers' lanes. People were parked, and I think he was the first dynamic inspiration for these slasher films that came out later, but he was real. And he was never found. And that mystery has been such a terrifying thing to me. And it was I created Strange World. So I pitched 30 episodes. We were always going to make 8 1-hour episodes for the first season. And so out of the 30, we chose 8,
Mm-hmm.
and the leftovers were things I wrote and created that I'm now making into the Off to the Witch Presents episodes. And I get to do it my way 100%, which I'm very happy about, because I would say Strange World was, 75% of my vision. And, it gets fiddled with a little bit by the networks because they're paying for it. In this case, I'm the producer 100%, and they're coming out great. And it'll be available. And so instead of just being available on one streaming network, it'll be available on 15. It'll be available on Amazon, Apple
Absolutely.
TV, Tubi, Roku. It'll be all over the place. And the new series, it's more about quality over quantity too. I'm really focusing on how good I can make these things as opposed to how many in a short period of time. So this week, just keep an eye out. I'm putting out a scene and a nice preview trailer of it, and it'll be finished within the next 2.5, 3 months. And then I have to make sure that it's negotiated the right way. But I won't wait until next Halloween to put it out. It's going to be out well before then. So
Absolutely. Well, Chris, thank you for coming on the show tonight. I'm going to go ahead and let you go and have a night, and I will reach back out to you as soon as I can to have you back on another show. And like I said again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being a guest on the show tonight.
likewise, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Chris, and you have a good night.
All right, take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Real quick, y'all, and I'm going to go ahead and get off too. But y'all leave y'all's comments or whatever after the show. Know right now, y'all probably seen a lot of things. Josh has done a lot of shows just basically bringing up a lot of the things that we've dealt with from September all the way up to this point now. And it's tiring. And now at this point, for me, it's to the point where um, I don't know, it's some of the things coming from the people like y'all are not seeing me coming out doing too many shows right now because it's draining. It's draining, it's frustrating, it's irritating because at the end of the day, um, what people also don't think about or realize is that at the end of the day, like regardless of whether you choose your favorite podcaster, you choose your favorite channel and favorite group and stuff like that, at the end of the day, we're still ordinary people too. We still have families, we still have jobs, we still eat, cook, take showers, and do everything else just like y'all do. We're just a regular person just like you. And I don't know when I'm looking at the situation as far as everything transpired, different people gotten involved in this. I'm not calling any names because I'm not here for that. I want to be able to do my shows. I want to be able to have guests on the show. What I don't like being attacked. I don't like not attacked. I'm saying like people have a right to their opinions or feeling however they feel about different things, but just keep it to yourself. I'm not out here to like try to make anybody believe what I believe. Every guest that comes on the show, I don't agree with every guest that comes on the show or their theories or different things like that. But I'll let people come on because when it comes down to cryptids, paranormal, or whatever we're discussing on the show, y'all have a right to get every angle. I don't just need to say, well, I believe they're Nephilim, so I'm only going to have guests on the show that believes that all of these creatures are Nephilim. I need to have the people on there that also believe that they're only flesh and blood, and interdimensional because different people have had different experiences. So when it comes to that, I'm just going to give y'all the whole gambit of it, and that way you can determine what you agree with, what you believe, what you don't believe, and then whether you're undecided. I want to say one other thing too, a couple other things about the situation, because like I said, I'm not going to be one of the people, no matter how many videos that the opposition comes out with, and it shouldn't even be a thing of opposition in the first place, because I feel like there's enough room out there for every podcaster. I have my channel, and I look at stuff the same way as I do in real life. I look at it the way I am on the show or in the group. That's the way I am in real life. Like, mind your business. Like, stay out of my business, and I'll stay out of your business. It's simple as that. Like, you just do you, and I'm gonna do me, and that's how it is. Like, you cannot be a person that feels some type of way about somebody else because you don't like what they believe in. If you weren't so busy worrying about what's on my plate or worried about somebody else's channel, then it wouldn't be an issue. No matter how many videos that come out at this point, no matter how many posts, no matter how many times that, comment in the chats and stuff like that, negative comments, I'm not going to I'm not going to let these things hurt my feelings anymore. I'm not going to let these things bother me or continue to anger me, because I feel like at this point I'm past that. We're too old for it. And if you really look at a bigger picture, I'm looking at this like we're in our 40s. We're in our 40s. We're not teenagers, but like some people, like right now, are acting like children. And when I say that, I mean, when it comes down to attacking, when it comes down to like continuing like to try to slander somebody, when it comes down to doing two, three, four, five, and up on shows in order to try to destroy somebody's reputation, to try to paint a picture to their audience, of who you are and what you stand for, then like I always tell my people on my show, my channel, my group, like if you feel some type of way, come watch a show and make your own determination. Like, I don't allow that anybody comes in with into my group talking negative about anybody else. Get them out of here. We don't have time for that. Nobody's allowed to talk about any other podcast or be disrespectful to other members or anything like that. That's just what I stand for. I can't sit up here, and I'm not perfect. I'm seeing and I did all kind of stuff, and I can honestly say that without, sitting up here trying to act like I'm righteous or holier than before making a judgment or believing everything that you hear, or whether you do hear something and she's this or she's that. What has that got to do with the content I provide? What has that got to do with the shows that I put on? What has that got to do with Dogman, Bigfoot, or Chris? At the end of the day, everybody has a life to live. Everybody has things that they've done, things that they're ashamed of. But at the end of the day, like, what has that got to do with content? I can't talk. What does that got to do with the content that's being provided? Y'all won't hear me going back and forth with nobody. I addressed it last month, I think, or a few weeks ago when I did the video troll. I addressed it once and one time only. I'm not going to keep addressing it. I'm not going to keep talking about it, because at the end of the day, in the end, you will see like who's being petty when you see the people that continue to do this. The way I look at things, if I'm not attacking you and I'm not giving you a reason to keep going back and forth, then now you're just being petty. Now you're being hateful, and now it's beyond more of an agenda at this point to tear me down for whatever reason. I'm the one and only black female in this field, and I'm not making this a race thing right now, y'all. But sometimes it is a race thing. Just like you saw the comment earlier brought up, and I wasn't even going to give any place to it, and I made sure to let Chris be off the show first, but I'm just going to speak on this and I'm going to let y'all go. But you have people like Lil Bree and people like that to come in. That doesn't hurt my feelings. That's ignorance. I'm not even going to say ignorance, just childishness, if anything, and racism rearing its ugly head. When somebody comes in and makes a comment, the first comment that was made on another channel, and the comment was allowed to remain there, was, I heard Bettina's leaving the Dogman community. Maybe now she'll start blowing Bigfoot. Maybe we should give her some chicken and watermelon to cheer her up. Tonight's comment basically said, what was it? I hear DoorDash is delivering watermelon, something like that. I can't even remember. I removed that comment and I blocked Lil Bree Bree. But that is just an example, and I posted that. Not out of being petty, but I posted that because I wanted y'all to see it in real time, to see what is going on behind the scenes, to see, because you have people coming from different factions, and I'm not, like I said, I think I've spent enough time talking about this right now. I just wanted y'all to know where my standpoint is, where I'm coming from on this, and I'm just really tired and I'm frustrated. At the end of the day, I'm probably going to fall back a bit. I'm not going to do as many shows as I was before because a lot of things, as far as this cryptid field is concerned, is taking my joy out of doing it. I really don't enjoy doing it as much as I used to. I used to look forward to it. I used to look forward to bringing out shows. I don't like. I don't like what's happening. It's hurtful because at the end of the day, in a lot of ways, the reason it's hurtful is because I know, you know how the saying goes, like, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Words do hurt. Words do hurt. And what also hurts is when people that you feel like that you were associated with, that you felt like were friends, or people that you were blindsided by, and then all of a sudden it's all this negativity. It's like, why? What am I doing to you? What have I done to deserve any of that? What is the deal? It's just, that's all I'm gonna say, y'all, because I'm giving more time to it than I even intended to. But but that's all I wanted to say about that. Y'all, let me know in the comments, and I'm gonna let y'all go. Hold on. Y'all leave a comment and y'all let me know what y'all want to do. Like, what kind of shows do y'all want? What kind of topics do what you guys like for me to have on here for y'all? Do y'all want me to continue talking about? Because I may do another show tomorrow. Like, I kind of just been popping up lately and just kind of deciding at the last minute to kind of do a little something special for y'all. Y'all let me know what you want next. Do y'all want to talk about more sleep stuff? Do you want to come on and talk about hauntings? Any of y'all that want to come in and talk about hauntings or whatever, paranormal activity? Some stuff, like I said before, I will talk about like when I'm away from home. So y'all let me know in the comments because it's taking me a minute. It took a minute for me to get y'all's comments up because the comments were going through so fast. I missed a lot of them. Let me. I do want to say one more thing though, because I want to make a joke about the Labruby comment, and I swear to God, y'all, it's not bothering me. It never bothered me before. It was just annoying. But I do want to say one last thing about that. In all seriousness, we have a lot of stereotypes when it comes to race, when it comes to black or white. Black people, that's chicken and watermelon, red Kool Aid, what else? Chitlins, stuff like that, pig feet, all kind of stuff like that. But then, like, when it comes to white people, we have this thing like, well, nobody want no mayonnaise, or like, there's different things that people look at and they put it into categories, and some things are so stereotypical that it's ridiculous. And I'm sorry, y'all. Like, I feel like I've come off of my square right now because I didn't want to. I didn't want to address this stuff, and I'm not. I'm gonna let it go. But I just wanted to bring that out there to y'all. Please me in any other chats and just go on there. And when you go in, you go to a point to where you go in and attack anybody on any other channels because it's not worth it. Because at the end of the day, people are gonna have their followers, they're gonna have their subscribers, and their stuff. And watch, everybody's gonna have their diehards. Anyway, love you guys. Thank y'all for showing up tonight. I will be back. Y'all just let me know some ideas what y'all want to talk about next. Y'all let me know what y'all want to talk about on the next show. And if y'all are in the group, then make sure to go to the group and y'all can leave a comment there, some topics. But I will be bringing up different things. But with that being said, I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much and have a great night.